we can't be a bottleneck for India to grow, right, in terms of progressing in research and innovations. And hence I felt that we need to have a digital platform.
Okay.
So Manthan is a platform which is now available to everybody to come in, and it's free of cost. And here we have generated the demand. We have invited every industry possible. So we have thousands of industries on this platform, and we have several institutes, IITs, IIMS, AIIMS, DRDOs. We also have, NCL Pune, Will Grow, Social Alpha, as well as startups and so on. So a huge number of supply over there who draw from this demand.
Okay.
And they apply and bid for the proposals, for the projects through formal proposals.
Okay.
So all of that has been raised on this platform, and so that's the demand generation. Yes. We have crossed $1 billion USD worth of projects today, which has a combination of open innovations, early stage R&D, infrastructure that people want to provide, and so on. So all of that, and this can be through multilaterals, it could be through industries, multinationals, it could be high net worth income people. There are quite a few of them supporting. So all of that, is the demand generation. That's the first pillar of Manthan.
Dr. Sapna, you are the Director of Strategic Alliance with the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor and working with the Government of India. Now, that is an identity that you hold as a professional. I would really like to know you as an individual and your journey from the very, very beginning. So tell me about Sapna as a child.
Okay, I think I'm the same even today. I'm very bratish, extremely, naughty in every way possible. But I was also completely spoiled by my father.
Okay.
So I was like the princess in the house, and my dad used to really, whatever I've learned actually is from my dad, of course. So he very early in my life actually started getting me into sports and getting me into activities which would engage my boisterous me that I had, So he would keep me very occupied physically so that I'm tired by the end of the day. But I realized that he tried to teach me a lot of things through this. Things like resilience, things like, being courageous. And I was never risk averse, right? I mean, I would just keep going, taking any kind of risks and so on, and he would encourage me. And he would always tell me that even if you fail, it doesn't matter. You need to stand and then continue doing that. And if you do things, you will make mistakes. So that doesn't matter really, but you have to keep doing things, all of that.
Right.
So he was one person who was there for 16 years of my life. Unfortunately, I lost him when I was 16. But that stays with me even today. A lot of his learnings, and a lot of his way of working. I used to just ape him in everything possible. So I was my dad's girl. So I think that's where it began. And then, of course, when you don't have a father, you take a lot more responsibility. And of course, I have an elder brother. But a lot of responsibilities I had to take on when I was very young. And that's how I took my career very seriously as well. Otherwise, until then, I was very casual about everything, my academics and all of that. I was just not bothered. But this kind of changed the whole, spectrum for me. So of course, the first 15 years, I was in the private sector. I was with the best brands possible, Deloitte, ITC, Toyota, Hewitt, and all of that. So I learned a lot of processes. I learned a lot of structured way of doing things at a particular pace. Quality, business development, marketing, networking, all kinds of inputs that came in during that 15 years of my private sector. But the problem was that I used to get very tired by the evening, and I used to keep wondering why is it that I'm so fatigued, right? So I talked to my mother. My mom, again, was a very strong personality. I mean, you can well imagine, post my dad, she had to manage us and she raised us and so on. And she also worked and all of that. But she was an epitome of strength. And I could go to her with any issues and discuss with her. Though I actually didn't know her much during my childhood days because I was so attached to my dad that I had no space for anyone else. So my mom was very clear. She said, it doesn't matter what you want to do in life. It doesn't matter if you want to continue your career or not. You take a break, think of what you want to do, because maybe you've not found your purpose.
Okay.
And that made the difference. So meanwhile, I applied to IIT Madras and got my PhD. So I spent about a couple of years there. That is the other space where many of my faculty members would talk a lot about social impact and work for the poor and so on. So then I realized that maybe in the private sector, I'm managing to make the rich richer, in many ways, whereas I'm not focusing on the have-nots. And that could be my purpose. And genetically also, I feel that from my grandfather, my father, mother, all of them have been working on social impact areas. So that is why I think I felt that this could be something. So meanwhile, after my PhD, I joined ITC, and again there I met one Mr. Anand Naik. He was the head of corporate affairs, and he was one of the people who exposed me to government sector. Okay. So I used to work with the Ministry of HRD as well as the ex-PMO and so on. So from there I understood that, okay, the ways of government and the scale at which they work and so on, and I used to give a lot of inputs from ITC. Okay. Yes.
You were saying about exhaustion. I have spoken to quite a few people in the recent times who face the same issue. So when you went through that particular journey, right, how did you draw that line? How did you kind of just sever that and pursue academia immediately?
Yeah, the thing was that, I had to take a break, right? So now when you are very responsible and you are the kinds who has never taken a break, you don't know how to take a break. Even today, I hardly take leave. I hardly take a break per se. Of course, I have an amazing time. I have a good social network, and I really enjoy myself and so on. But that's really along with work. So I'm a workaholic, right, to put it that way. Yeah. So hence I thought, going into education would be a better way, because then you get a break and you're intellectually stimulating yourself also at the same time. And that's something very important for me. I cannot do things which are not intellectually interesting and intriguing for me. So that's how I manage the exhaustion part. And like I said, the minute I got the purpose, now today, I don't think it's a job for me, what I'm doing today. It's a role where it has a larger purpose. So every hour that I waste, I feel that I am now not, that 1 hour of effort should have gone for the have-nots. Right. So somewhere I keep thinking that.
Right.
So because of which I can start working at 4 a.m. and finish at 10 p.m. and I don't get tired.
Right.
I work on weekends, I work in the evenings, I enjoy myself also. It's a way of my life now.
Lovely.
Yeah.
You've taken the transition from private to government. So how was that journey for you?
Yeah. So I think, not only that, I also moved from South, which is Bangalore, to Delhi, and that was a cultural shock altogether. So it was a whole combination of things, and I didn't know what hit me actually. But then, like I said, the role and the purpose was much larger. So I wouldn't get into petty politics. I still don't get into petty politics. I just avoid, as much as possible. And my whole focus is on how the processes and systems that I've learned in the private sector can be actually adopted here, and how I could, kind of scale up whatever I've started and so on. And strategic thinking is something that I've always believed in, and always worked on things which are a little out of the box. So the first half of my career in the government, I was in the skill development space. Okay. And there I was also known for my monitoring and evaluation. Okay. I had closed down a lot of skilling centers, which I didn't think were quality centers. I was very serious about skill development. And I also wanted demand generation and skills to actually align to the demand. Whereas India has always had supply-based skill development. So I don't believe in that.
Right.
I believe that everything should be aligned to the demand. If there's a demand, you skill people. If there's a demand, you innovate. Right. So that's how, otherwise you're innovating for the innovation's sake, you're developing technology for technology's sake, and you are skilling for skilling's sake. You're right. Not doing any alignment to the demand which is actually there. So that was something that I felt very deeply. I was also in charge of Jammu Kashmir Udan program. I was in charge of Northeast, Naxal areas. I've gone blindfolded into the Naxal areas. I've spoken to the leaders there, kind of mainstreamed many of them. Also supported, the training and skill development organizations were within Northeast, which were local, and closed down those which were from outside, which were not really doing much. So all of that. So a lot of changes. And I also got Baichung Bhutia, who's the vice captain, to actually talk to the youth and so on. Also played football with the Chief Minister, Mr. Pema Khandu, Arunachal, Kiran Rijiju, and all of them. So it was a very, it's like a family, literally, in the Northeast. And I ensured that the locals got more and more opportunities. And very few officers from Delhi would actually fly down to, Northeast to look at things of what's happening on the ground and so on. But I was known to be a person of the ground and on the ground all the time. So that's one thing that I remember of the skill development days. And then, of course, Office of PSA, I've been here now for 5 years. I've seen 2 principal scientific advisors, and I've been very fortunate that way. Dr. Vijayaraghavan was the one who hired me, and now we have Professor Ajay Sood. Both of them have been extremely open on the base that I operate, which is very different from the regular government officer. So, and of course, my peers, they understand me very well, and they have always been very encouraging. So that is something I've been very fortunate about, because without that, you can't do much. In addition to that, I've been, of course, all through the government, I have designed my own programs and have taken forward my own programs. That's also very unusual. In the government, it doesn't happen. In the private sector, it's very normal. So that is again something that I was allowed to do, pick up whatever I wanted to. If I want to pick up special areas like Naxal areas and so on,
right.
They were like very surprised that what does this mean? I said it's the same thing. It's the same Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana, but it's for special areas.
Right.
Similarly, with the Office of PSA also, I said I want to do, bring demand here, bring the problem statements for the startups and for the institutes to solve. They said, okay, go ahead, do whatever you want.
Sure.
And then I was, of course, alone when the COVID happened, the pandemic happened, and I kind of brought in a lot of funds for a lot of projects, and also got a lot of industries engaged on this. So we had startups, we had several institutes, who had fantastic innovations. So, and they were like 300, 400 innovations. So we had to quickly evaluate them. We had to ensure that gets streamlined and it goes to the evaluation, goes through an evaluation, and also scales up in terms of manufacturing and so on. So you can well imagine in a pandemic situation, how do you do all of this, right? So I was very fortunate, and that's the other thing I've been very fortunate, and I think both my parents have been there for this as well. That I always had something which I called as a white-collared volunteers. Okay. I've got a mass of them. I've got like a huge crowd of people who just come and help me. And they are from different walks of life, different ages, and they just come and they like the fact that there is no agenda here, and that it's completely a free-flowing thing, and people can also come and contribute because they are regular professionals at times, or they are retired, or they are different kinds of people who are just wanting to do something but they don't know where to attach themselves. So those are the kind of people who have helped. So I did about 162 projects during COVID, and those are the people who helped me, and made so many 30 calls per day, and 800 emails and so on. And so these were the volunteers who also supported in all of that. Even today I work and operate in this manner. I've got a 6-member team, but I have requested, other organizations to come forward and give their teams and give some of their funding to our initiatives.
You wanted it to be demand-oriented rather than just create more people and then them not having work to do. So how do you go about it?
So let's talk about the science area, because this is what I am today. So in this context, like I said, I've got a very small team, a set of team size. So I realized that we can't be a bottleneck for India to grow, right, in terms of progressing in research and innovations. And hence I felt that we need to have a digital platform. So Manthan is a platform which is now available to everybody to come in, and it's free of cost. And here we have generated the demand. We have invited every industry possible. So we have thousands of industries on this platform, and we have several institutes, IITs, IIMS, AIIMS, DRDOs. We also have, NCL Pune, Will Grow, Social Alpha, as well as, startups and so on. So a huge number of supply over there who draw from this demand. And they, apply and bid for the proposals, for the projects through formal proposals. So all of them, that has been templatized on this platform. And so that's the demand generation. We have crossed $1 billion USD worth of projects today, which has a combination of open innovations, early stage R&D, infrastructure that people want to provide, and so on. So all of that, and this can be through multilaterals, it could be through industries, multinationals, it could be high net worth income people. There are quite a few of them supporting. So all of that, is the demand generation. That's the first pillar of Manthan. The second pillar is that you and I would have an innovation, right? There are so many innovations in this country. So not everything can be, we will not be able to understand that these are the innovations which are, completely market ready. So we also showcase that. We let them showcase that. So nowhere do we touch the platform. Like my team is not permitted to touch the platform. It's the engagement is by the institutes and the demand side, that is the industry. So here they share their innovations, all the institutes as well as the startups. They also share what kind of R&D they want to do in future. So do they want to do, set up a center of excellence, or they want to do a research on, say, water or waste management or on AI for health, anything, quantum. There's so many centers of excellence that people want to set up, or such a lot of nuanced research that they want to undertake. So they can kind of upload that details so that industry can look at them, and like similar to LinkedIn, they can get in touch on the platform and write to them in terms of what partnerships they want to do. The third one is that we have international partnerships, we have government partnerships. We have 23 countries participating on this platform. We have 17 government central ministries and several state government also on this platform. I've met 17 of them, secretaries personally, and got them involved and so on.
Right.
And continuously they use the platform for this. So there are segments of that nature. Women in STEM, school innovations. Again, we're going to launch the Samsung for Tomorrow, the third year, and we have 100 teams this time that are going to be selected and so on. So several such projects are there on the school innovation because we want to start early. And then finally, we also want to amplify these stories, just like how you're talking to me. In the similar manner, we want to talk about our innovations. So we've got several OTT partners. We've got Amazon Prime. I've actually written a script, first time in my life, where I said that I want a reality show where the founders themselves teach the unincubated startups how to run a startup, right? What are the issues that you face? What is the talent attraction problems that you face? How do you pitch for investments? Day-to-day operations and all of those things, right? So we have done several episodes. And just to ensure that you understand, we do not have a single rupee government budget here. It's all through philanthropic funding. So even Manthan has been developed thanks to Mr. Lakshminarayan, ex-Cognizant Managing Director. He's a philanthropist, and he funded, and he was part of the board in NSTC. So we amplify through Amazon, and then we amplify through Netflix. Netflix is doing international movies for us. Then we have Sunset TV, which did a couple of project episodes and so on. Doordarshan, again, IFCO funded Doordarshan, and we showed agriculture innovations and all of that through that. So several OTT platforms have been supporting us. So that's the fourth pillar that we have on Manthan. Right. And Manthan got selected in the World Government Summit, which is a summit which happens in UAE, where 26 prime ministers and their delegations meet. It's a closed-door summit for 3 days. Wow. And it got selected as the top 8 global government initiatives. So we had that year, that is last year, we had Amsterdam, we had Australia and some other countries, mostly developed countries, along with India. So this was the first time in 11 years that an Indian government initiative has been kind of selected. And it was not through application, it was through nomination, because similar to this, I have interviewed with Forbes and GovInsider and so on. So they heard one of these interviews.
Lovely.
Yeah.
So if I were to talk about Manthan a bit more, if you may. So for anybody who is an innovator, what does their journey look like? Any one example that you may want to share?
Yeah. So if you are an innovator, for instance, you have My Labs, diagnostics, or you have modular housing. These are startups, right? They have innovations. So when they build an innovation, even for prototype or for scale up, they can surf through Manthan to look at what are the opportunities that they have. In that space, right? So we have, for instance, Microsoft, or we have Rockefeller Foundation, or it could be Elon Musk Foundation, X Prize Foundation, and so many organizations which are there, thousands of them. So they kind of give open innovation challenges on this platform, or they provide opportunities of CSR projects that they have, and so on. So on, say, water or on waste management and so on. So these startups can apply over there, and of course they have to win, they have to be the best, and so, but many of them are quite open to 200, 300, 500 startups also. So that kind of numbers also get covered. So they get the seed funding, in many cases they get mentoring along with seed funding and so on. And quite a few of them are kind of unicorns today. So quite a few of them, are doing very well for themselves, because through this they get a leap, they can leapfrog into other scale up. Right? For instance, ministry looks at you, or for instance, National Health Mission has supported one of our startups, modular housing. They have given him a large contract and so on. I have personally gone with him to 55 corporates and requested them to fund, and requested 15,000 square feet land from the state government for establishing hospitals. So that kind of a support. And the first prototype also, we got Wells Fargo, which is an organization, financial organization. So they have funded the prototype for him, and we requested Tata Memorial Hospital to do the prototype, in Munger, which is the same. So those kind of things we keep. A lot of visibility. Visibility, and a lot of the initial support that they require.
Right. The government, you said, does not participate
No, the
directly
government
in this?
funding is not there, but it participates. Obviously, this is a government platform.
Government platform,
Yeah.
right. So this is, of course, what is happening in the tier 1
Yeah,
location.
so I also want to add here that the government has been for years funding capex in all these institutes. So they don't need to actually fund the demand generation. The demand has to come from the industry.
Correct.
Right. So the institutes already have the capex, the consumables and the resources and the demand has to come from the industries.
Right.
So it's okay for the government not to participate. This should be an industry-led.
Should be,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's not about funding, it's about collaboration.
Yeah.
Imagine you have these complex organizations like how the Honorable Prime Minister also keeps talking about Samaj, startups and all of them working together, right? So this is where it happens, and startups coming together, where different stakeholders with different agenda, different scope, and kind of some of them are at macro level, some of them are at micro level, and so on. So they all are very different animals, if I can say, and they all work together and collaborate and make a social impact. That's the difference here.
Right. Yes. You mentioned about innovation, and every startup doesn't need to innovate from scratch all over. So is there some way?
Yes. So we have a program called ROTAG in the office, which is Rural Technology Action Group, where we support a lot of IITs to develop rural technology from past 20 years or so. So that can be done. I mean, you can do a technology transfer. Some of them are free of cost also, and you can build your own entrepreneurship. So the startup doesn't have to innovate. The IIT technologies can be done, taken as a tech transfer, and then that can be manufactured and that can be scaled up. The second thing is that, now that we're talking about ROTAG, on the platform we have the $1 billion USD worth of projects at like 8,500 plus or so. Out of that, at least 2,000 crores have been disseminated. All of it was taken mostly by premier institutes, IITs, NITs, and all of them. So that's why we have started another project, which is called Utthan, which is upscaling of tier 2, tier 3 colleges for the holistic advancement of the nation. Here, our focus is twofold. One is to do capacity build, which includes informative courses, publications, how to write a good publication, how to write a good proposal for CSR, and also to support these tier 2 institutes to understand the innovation arena, basically, also to get them inputs from the best in class. Because we believe that best should reach the tier 2 as well. And similarly, MITI is another project that we do under Utthan. MITI stands for Manthan, International Federation of Inventors Association, tier 2, tier 3 colleges and industry. So that's the combination. And here we set up innovation hubs in industries as well as we set up innovation hubs in tier 2 colleges. Again, without resources of our own, and we have requested Tumkur University to give us some people, so they might give us a small team of 3 or 5 people. So we would be starting. We have already started this project and we have done quite well. We got Springer Nature to support us, Taylor and Francis and all of that. But we have requested Tumkur to, kind of work with us on this because we really need to go big on Utthan. And similarly, 70% of our of the population is sitting in the villages.
Right.
And they will have no clue how to articulate a problem statement. At best, they can say that, okay, this water has some, grease or like some, color. They can't articulate stating that this is arsenic water or, what is the exact issue, which the science and tech people will understand. So we are working, and also innovations which are showcased on Manthan, they will not be able to handpick them. Right? They don't know how to handpick water, water monitoring tool or an arsenic water or water cleaning innovation and so on. So because of which we are actually setting up physical centers across the nation. We have set up 50 of them through implementation partners. Okay, so these implementation partners, we have given them the collateral of a proposal and all of that. They go to their CSR counterparts and then they get the CSR and they establish these centers. And we have got, this is a whole framework that I've developed, and so there are 12 tracks in this. Agriculture services and technology is the first track because we feel that the farmers will pay for that. So we call it RSVC, ROTAG with the E. E stands for employment and entrepreneurship, again demand, smart village center. So the RSVC concept has 12 tracks, and so that these tracks actually support the RSVC to be sustainable after 12 months or at least 15 months. Here we also have an organic fertilizer, LCB fertilizer plant next to the RSVC, so that we also take organic fertilizer to the villages. And that also earns back to the RSVC. So we around 65,000 per month is what some of the RSVCs are doing, earning through the organic fertilizer. So agriculture technologies and services is the first one, because people will pay for crop patterning, they will pay for fertilizer, spray and things like that. The second one is livelihood, which is again root ag, which I talked about. So water, so mostly livelihood related, like you have the bead making machinery and so on. So we look at what are the markets around the RSVC. One RSVC caters to 15 villages. Okay. So we look around the market and then we say, okay, these are the livelihood technologies that we should have here. The third one is the water and sanitation and waste management and so on. And then we have assistive technologies, health technologies, and then of course we also think EdTech is very important. So we have, using CSR and Manthan, established and developed a lot of games, right? Gamified a lot of STEM education. So we are taking that pro bono and we are providing that to the implementation partners that they can go on. So but like I said, rural development is a big thing to do, and it's like massive sized, right? So how does one, with this size and with zero budget manage this? So that's why we requested NABARD to be our partner. National Agriculture, Bank of Agriculture and Rural Development. So they are our partners, and I have requested them to set up a center of excellence there, which has certain pillars. The first pillar is the technology pillar, which will actually support us on testing and validating some of these technologies on the ground, the startup, because the startups claim certain, ratios or certain quality of the innovation. Who will do the testing, right? So we need to go to an IIT to get that tested and so on. So that's the coordination that has to be done by the technology vertical. Post which scaling up revenue models of this startup, scaling up what kind of accelerators should be there. All of that is what the technology team will do. We are fortunate that NABARD has chosen PwC right now to support them on the technology piece. Then comes the second vertical, which is to do with NGO capacity building, because they have several NGOs, we have several NGOs. We work with nearly 100 NGOs here. So they should be able to kind of do the capacity building of how Root Ag Smart Village Center can be established, how to run it, how to hire people from the villages, because we believe the entire center should be owned by the villages.
Right.
So the villagers will finally have a share and own the RSVC. And they will bring the, in many cases, they have given the furniture, they have given the, whatever is required to purchase the technologies and things like that. Then comes the vertical, which is focusing on this one, financial linkages, because they are very good at that. NABARD is very good at financial linkages and market linkages and so on. So here the SHGs and FPOs get the financial, the credits that is required to buy the technology and so on. And when they have a better produce, obviously when you do the technology intervention on the ground, the produce will increase. When the produce increases, you have to have, somebody to look at market linkages at that time and financial linkages at that time. So we don't want to come to it after the entire process is over. So we started planning it right away. And then the last one, of course, is to fund RSVC. So while NABARD pumps in its own funding, etc., we are also looking at, we have started the process with National Stock Exchange, where social stock exchange listing of RSVC is being done. So that's something that we're looking at. And then CSR funding, ONGC has already shown interest, DCM Sriram, then we have Hindustan Unilever and so on. So all of these also will be funded through the NABARD NAB Foundation, which is under NABARD.
Right.
And similarly, the entrepreneurship development, which is RSVC Type 2, where the technology transfer can be done and manufacturing and entrepreneurship development can be done, that could be done through NAB Ventures. So that's the other piece. So this thing. And RSVC Type 3 is where we want to encourage and which is one of the tracks also of the 12 tracks, which I forgot to mention. It is basically that we want to encourage Tier 2 colleges to do rural technology. We don't need an IIT to do it all the time. The Tier 2 folks are actually from the villages, so they should be able to do it. So that's the RSVC Type 3 that we have, and we have commenced that in Karnataka, and similarly we would like to do it in other places. And some of these technologies that we're talking about in rural space, once we do it in rural space, we could have a government taking it over. For instance, we have done a water model project in Karnataka by IIT Madras, Professor Lee, where she has done a lot of wet waste management, and that is now being taken by the government of Karnataka seriously, and she and her team, Professor Moti and some others, they are now capacitating all the government officers and kind of increasing the scale throughout Karnataka. So each of these technologies, we have a dream that it should actually become get transferred and also scaled up by the state governments. That's the other thing.
So it's almost like a build, operate, transfer model that you are that you look at. So and
for the technologies, not for the center. The center is BOT for the villagers.
Okay.
The villagers should be able to operate this and scale it up. The implementation partner will be a consultant to the villagers and handpick the innovations, and the startups will support in deploying the technology. That's the model.
So you said you're looking at a 1-year handhold period. Is that like across?
1 year handhold period.
In the sense that, in terms of the funding and hoping that it will self-sustain itself after a period of 1 year?
Yeah, that is funding. If it is required, then it could be for funding or support by anyone for that matter. Basically, we want a sustainable model. We don't want a center which will close down, or we don't want a center which will keep asking for funds all the time. It has to be sustainable. Anything that you do in life should be sustainable. If it is not, then it's not worth starting that project.
Right. So could you give an example where employment and entrepreneurship has sprung from these cases?
Yeah, so like I mentioned about the LCB fertilizer, that's one of the root tags. So there, what we've done is we have established, through the RSVC, established a plant, a factory, where the villager is the owner of that. Is the entrepreneur.
Okay.
And so he generates this, and the ingredients are usually like you have very local, like cow dung, basin, and all of that. So that comes from the local. So it's a community engagement in that sense. And then he sells it to the farmers over there.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a livelihood that we have created. Similarly, for women SHGs, we have like Transform Rural India Foundation is a very well-known organization. So which is close to Mathura, we have found that Mathura is a place where, necklaces and malas can be sold. So because of which we have given them this particular technology, which is bead making from Tulsi plant. So that's the other thing that we have, created livelihood. So there are several such technologies. Like I said, the energy of the implementation partner here is very critical.
Right.
And the Center of Excellence of NABARD, technology vertical, because they then together keep encouraging more and more innovation. The more you try, if you try 50 innovations, then 5 of them may be successful, right? So you need to invite those 50. That is what we are working on.
So one thing which is coming out is that there is a need for decentralization of innovation. It is not necessarily concentrated in tier 1. Why do you think that is so important?
Especially because pandemic is the one which actually taught us that quite a lot of innovations came from grassroots innovators. People who were actually garage innovators. They were not known, they were not incubated, quite a few of them. Yeah. So somewhere we are missing the creme of the creme, because we are only focusing on only the few IITs and so on, right? That's not enough for 1.2 billion population. There are so many of them innovating, and I don't even want to call them grassroots innovators actually. Many of them are innovating top-notch stuff, but that's not reaching where it should. It's not being scaled up because people are not noticing it. And that's exactly why Manthan is there, for people to reach the unreached.
Right, absolutely. So you mentioned Center of Excellence, right? And that seems like a very powerful method, because you're creating centers which really work. So where have, can one Center of Excellence that is really worked? Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so we've established at least 20 centers of excellence last couple of years, and anywhere from 3 crores to 60, 100 crores is what we have pumped in through CSR funds. So one is in IIT Palakkad, a lesser known IIT, but we had, initially got collaborators and funding, etc., from HDFC Bank, and then we had Gates Foundation also supporting them, IPMO, then we have Toilet Board Coalition, Keystone Foundation, and so on. So multiple people, started funding this same institute for sanitation. Then Mr. Bill Gates himself, he came and he met PSA, and he said, we are working on sanitation very seriously, and we would like to provide this particular Center of Excellence as much support as possible. So from then on, the proposals have been developed, and we have continuously, IIT Palakkad is developing sanitation technology. So we are. So largely what happens in the Center of Excellence is that there are 4 pillars again. The first pillar is to do with, scouting for technologies. Like they're looking at problem statements and scouting for, because we don't want to duplicate anything. And for that, again, they come to Manthan, because it's easier to scout, right? And once you know that these are the innovations which are already done or market ready, then you don't need to support those, right? You have to focus on the others. So then once that is achieved, then they make a cohort of startups, and then they establish them and so on, and then finally they pilot test it and then scale it up. Here what happens is we also give them a representative from MoUA, Ministry of Urban Affairs, so that they also kind of guide them on what are the policies and where the innovations are going and so on. So that kind of thing. That's how a Center of Excellence is done. Similarly, we have one in IIT Dharwad on renewable energy. We have which has got funding from Honeywell, Infineon, Selco Foundation. Lewis and so on. And then we have Amadeus, which has helped IIT Madras with water. We also had IBM supporting them and so on. SI Securities has supported Terry on another one and so on. So there were several of them. Quantum, we have one on AI for health and so on.
So you spoke about AI and multiple other things. So is there a method of prioritizing which one to go after?
No, so we are in all areas of science, all sustainable development goals and emerging technologies. Because as government, we cannot say that, okay, we are going to only focus on AI or we're going to quantum is going to be our focus for the next 3 months. We can't do that.
Correct.
We have to, and like I said, that we want to encourage innovators and grassroots innovators or any kind of innovators. So they will determine which area it has to be focused on. And secondly, the funders also have their own vision and mission, right? Like for instance, a bank, I don't want to name the bank, but the bank is looking at only water as its mission. So we're not going to now, we're going to grab that opportunity and provide it to all the water innovators.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Correct.
Like I said, demand.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, demand. So which is the hot innovation that is going to likely hit the market soon?
No, so see, my work is ecosystem building, right? So it's not to really handpick one innovation and things like that. But having said that, I think AI for health related innovations are really going to be supporting, especially masses in the villages.
Right. Okay, that's like much needed.
Yes, especially because we have so many tribal languages, we have all kinds of languages. That conversion using AI, converting that into a triage, which the pre-consultation document for the doctors is very important. So that's something that would be one of the good innovations.
Right. So when an innovation happens in one center of excellence, how quickly does it really scale or to others or pan-India?
Yeah, so our role is not really to determine how the center of excellence will be articulated or how that will be developed and all. That is something the faculty members will do. And our role is to get them the best collaborator. They want industry, they want mentors, they need startups, they need platforms to amplify the technology, they need line ministry on their board. All of that is what we work on. We do not get involved in, or we do not direct them to do a particular way, or if a technology comes out, go and give it to some other IT. All that is not our business, right? We focus on what is our role. That's one thing you will notice and that's why I think our high performance can be seen, is that we don't go all over the place. We stick to one thing all through. This is our role, this is what we will do. You can well imagine lakhs of people try to move us from some X spectrum to the other, right?
Sure.
And they keep dragging us to, why don't you be part of this? What about this? This is very important. Everything is important. But the point is, finally, we have to focus on what we are doing. So we don't go all over the place. We just stick to what is our role.
Right.
Yeah.
So this conversation is HerStory, right, where we actually talk to women leaders like yourself.
Yeah.
So when we talk of science, technology, innovation, research, how is this landscape looking for women in this particular field?
Yeah, so we also focus on women in STEM separately, right from school onwards. For school kids itself, the gamification of STEM, for instance, we focused a lot on girl kids, and we did it with the help of Kendra Vidyalaya and so on, and we focused on that initially. Similarly, women-led startups, and women researchers. So the entire thing, and in addition to that, we also focus on giving international awards. So we have tied up with British High Commission, we have tied up with Royal Society of Chemistry, with the Canada Prime Minister's Office, and all kinds of organizations where we have come together and awarded a lot of these women and QR coded their details and all of that, and that goes international as well.
Right.
So that's quite a focus for us.
And what about non-metro location? Is the talent pool similar, or is that increasing? What can we do to kind of focus on that?
Yeah, so I also already mentioned about Uthan, and that is a focus on tier 2 colleges and tier 2 towns and so on. We are not into talent, thing that is left to Ministry of Skill Development. We focus on innovation and research.
Okay.
Yeah, how to up their innovation and research capabilities.
Nice. So in terms of some final thoughts on what are your hopes for innovation for the country, and especially kind of seeing as to where does India fit in the overall global landscape?
So there are two elements here. One is that whatever we provide to India, we also provide to Africa, Nepal, and so on. So all these 3 national initiatives that we are talking about, we're actually offering to all of them as well. So you can well imagine where the kitty is 0, We are still aiming at going abroad, right? Outside of this thing, especially to LMICs.
Right.
So over there again, we have organizations like ADB and World Bank, all of them supporting those countries. So we've told them very clearly that you have to organize your funding.
Right.
We will give you these frameworks and we'll help you to kind of develop it and so on. So we are working with World Smart City Forum Foundation, which is part of from London. One Mr. Peter Schön. He and I are working on how to set up international rural smart village centers and take some of these technologies, democratize it further to those countries. The second is, like I said, we amplify our stories through international movies and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's how we take it to the other countries as well. The third one was related to, I actually forgot the question. I'm so sorry.
No, I was just saying that, in terms of, we do work in terms of for science innovation in the country, but we also need to make a dent in the overall global space. And
so this is exactly how we go about it, yes.
Yeah.
And like I said, we already have 23 countries on our platform. So several countries are already on this platform, providing us their problem statements, and we are solving them.
Right. So, Doctor, whatever work that you are doing is incredible, and with limited resources.
Yeah, I think that's a positive thing, because the right kind of people come to us.
Right.
The minute you have huge budgets and huge funding, you'll get all kinds of people, and most of your time is wasted in sieving them out.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy that I don't have a budget.
Yeah. And the fact that your energy is drawing more people like you.
My team as well. I've got a very dynamic 6-member team, and they're very hardworking, extremely sincere. Of course, we have weeded out most of the people who didn't align to us and didn't align to my pace, because I have a pace which I really need to maintain. And I can, I'm a task-oriented person. I'm not a people's person.
Yeah.
So I need my work to be done, because I feel that the country is way behind.
Right.
So if we are going to be, the niceties and the goody kinds, that's fine, that can be there.
Right.
But I think we need to be task-oriented, and we need to really gun for the goal that we have, and need to pump in more and more energy and efforts and time on, establishing. And innovations is the best way to do it.
That's very good.
To scale up and make a large-scale social impact.
Super. So wishing that there are more of you who are rallying behind you and taking things forward and taking India to the global scale in a larger and big way. Thank you so much for this conversation.
Thank you.